It's your weekly breakaway for fun conversations on pro cycling and so much more. Join us as we go beyond the slipstream. I'm Matt Harper, and together with my brother Justin, we'll do deep-ish dives on bike races, movies, bands, and all manner of shiny pop cultural objects. Oh, and did I mention bike races? We're kind of obsessed. Allez! Hello and welcome to Beyond the Slipstream. I'm Matt and this is my brother Justin, and today in our first topic we'll be discussing the 1985 Kevin Costner cycling movie American Flyers. In segment 2, we're going to broaden the conversation out to discuss Kevin Costner at large, his career and filmography, and I know you've got lots to say about all the latest Western epic stuff from the past couple of years, which I know nothing about. In our third segment, we're talking Cav. We're going to reflect on Mark Cavendish as he ends his illustrious career. Allez! Topic 1, American Flyers.
The song. The song
American Flyers.
Song at the beginning.
Oh God!
Like how do you start anywhere else than da, 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 da. Yeah, it's like instantaneous. And the whole beginning of that movie is like a fucking Mentos commercial.
Oh, right? Just the look of it, like the mid 80s of it all is so great.
He's on the bike and like the splashing water, and it's so.
He's riding the bike down the sidewalk. He's like riding like a madman down the sidewalk, which I just found like nobody has an issue with that at all. And then Costner shows up with his stash, and you're just like, yes, I am loving this stash. He looks like what's his name that was on EF, Magnus Court. He's got the Magnus stash happening.
No, it's like all of them look like that now. It's really funny.
He looks like Jay Vine or Jay McNulty. I mean, Brandon McNulty. So I was loving the stash.
100%. The whole beginning part of it, like I understand they're trying to set up the dramatic, like, the dad died and all this stuff, but there's so many like things that happen in that like beginning part of like setting up the relationship between because like they're trying so hard for you to like be like, oh, this relationship is strained because their dad died, and like, it seemed very like I wish they would have gone a little different route. It seemed like that whole beginning part seems so forced, all the way up to like when they get to like the Mayo Clinic part or whatever. But there's like that scene where like he drops the pasta on the floor and they're like focused in on that pot of like pasta on the floor. Like what like why? Like
I mean, I don't know. I saw it as just kind of like storytelling, it's kind of clunky. I mean, it's just, there's plot. They got to put some kind of plot in there. I mean, it's just like, it's not that you watch an old movie like that and stuff like that. It just the filmmaking evolves in ways, and it's just like, this is just a run of the mill movie. You know what I mean? Like,
how about Jennifer Grey?
Yeah, Jennifer Grey. She just like starts bawling.
Yeah, she's in the Jennifer Grey's in the movie for like 3.5 minutes, and then you're going.
Yeah, she's so young. She serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Like that could have been anybody, but it was Jennifer Grey. No, but forget about that cameo. There is one cameo in this movie that made me so happy. Like I'm just beside myself about it. Can you guess which one it was?
I mean, I don't know.
Eddie Merckx.
Oh yeah, okay. That's what I think. That's what I figured it was. But like yeah, that's unbelievable at the start of the race.
Eddie Merckx, like out in the middle of Colorado. Oh my God, I was dying when I saw that. I was like, well, one thing I wanted to mention was like I do like the different ways where they try to like put cycling like references in there, or like nods to European cycling. like calling it the Hell of the West, which is sort of like, a nod to the Hell of the North, which is, the Paris-Roubaix, the colloquial name for Paris-Roubaix. So I thought it's cool. It was the Hell of the West. And then, and then Eddie Merckx shows up. Oh, they call the bad guy is called the Cannibal, which is what they called Eddie Merckx. That was his nickname. And so all of that, I was just like absolutely loving that. The fact that it's like the 7-Eleven team, like the iconic 7-Eleven team, which wait, hang on. Yeah, definitely needed the 7-Eleven hat for this conversation. So we'll put that on. Yes, they were wearing this. This was the hat for that team. And you got Robert Townsend.
Yeah.
Well, Robert Townsend.
Okay. I just so I can say it and get it out of the way. Do you know what character I found to be the worst character in the whole movie is, and I love him, is John Amos. Like, I couldn't.
Yeah, he was just a parody.
Like what he was doing with that whole bit with his kid, and that just seemed like the worst parenting ever.
It was terrible. It was so dated, and that whole institute. The institute was just like in that treadmill scene. It's just like so silly. Like everything about it. Like they're like the 1985 version of like high tech fitness or whatever.
The CompuTrim. Hold on, I wrote it down. The What was it called? The CompuTrim 900.
Right. Oh, and how about the MRI or the color like brain imaging?
Okay.
So silly.
What about okay, so hold on, I'm looking at a couple of my notes. Okay. The Russian guy is the biggest person I've ever seen. That guy does not look like a cyclist.
Yeah, he's like a bodybuilder. Oh, so silly. So silly. Like this is a movie for people that know nothing about cycling, which is fine because that's 99.9% of the public, but yes, I definitely clocked that as well. What else did I have in
the cannibal, that guy Muzzin. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. So I did so as soon as that guy came on screen, he was looking like super familiar to me. I'm like, where have I seen that guy before? Like, I knew I had seen in something recently, and I realized as I was digging around in the IMDb and everything that he is in the movie Pacific Heights. Have you seen Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton, Matthew Modine, and
maybe
Melanie Griffith?
Maybe years and years ago.
It's a pretty good movie. I saw it years ago, and like in the Michael Keaton of everything right now with Beetlejuice. I had Michael Keaton in my head, and somebody mentioned that movie, and I was like, oh, I want to watch it. So I watched it. Anyways, that dude, the Muzzin guy, is in there, and he's like this menacing character, very side character, but very menacing. And like his look, like he had the exact same, just like you look at him, this dude is not on my side at all. And he's actually, what was his name? I thought I wrote his down. He's actually. Nowadays he's like known way more as a director. He's also a foreign dude, like he's from some other country or whatever, but makes a really, really good bad guy.
Okay. He was like, but he was just like so so over the top. So obviously I went and actually researched this after the fact, but it absolutely was based on the Coors Classic. Like that was the 100% inspiration for it. It was meant to be like the Coors Classic.
It's funny you say that too, because like I was watching all these like YouTube videos doing research and stuff, and like what is popping up into my YouTube feed, but like Coors Classic 1986 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So
which
I was thinking that
makes me sad as a cycling fan. Like, oh yeah, there was like a really cool race back in the day. But it was only, I guess it only lasted for like 7 or 8 years or something like that. It wasn't like a real long run.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing about that movie is after Kevin Costner, so like from the point where Kevin Costner like crashes to the end of the race is a 1 day difference. But like,
right.
The end of that race, they make him look like he is literally dying like in 4 hours. He is like,
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. It's so clunky. It's like first day he wins the stage. He's the race leader. Second day, something happens to he has a brain aneurysm that they were alluding to earlier when he was like, it's just when your brain just explodes or whatever. And like suddenly it happens to him. He almost falls off the side of the mountain. And by day 3, he's like infirm. Like he's
like
had an entire medical
walking with a
odyssey.
cane. He's like, he has
Right.
like weird jacket on.
He's had like a 3-year medical odyssey in the space of 3 days in this movie.
Yeah. It's like very, very, it seemed like everything was very rushed. So, speaking of Kevin Costner, I would love to break down a little bit more of kind of, Kevin Costner and what he's done and kind of what he's meant to me throughout the years.
You mean like for our second segment?
That would be exactly what I mean.
Well, let me run through a couple other things I wanted to mention about this.
Sure.
You started off talking about the music cues, which were just like so great in this movie, from complete schlock to like totally hilarious to like freaking awesome, like the ZZ Top song. Did you catch that ZZ Top song in there? Yeah. So great. ZZ Top, of course. It's 1985. Of course there's a ZZ Top song in there. The scene where they're training together for the first time, they're out on the road. There was a couple of like sweet close-ups of like the old like 1985 bike componentry that were awesome. Yeah. I like any of that kind of stuff. I was loving anything about the bikes. I was like texting you those pictures yesterday of like, I mean, some of those shots were just like,
how about when he was in his room and the bike was like on the wall and he's like, your spokes aren't true.
Yeah, he's like, your wheel's out of true.
Do you have a spoke wrench?
Yeah, I actually like that touch because like the bike is hanging there. It's like at the perfect level for him to just like true up the tire. That was a decent. It was
just interesting how that's what they chose to be like. Here's the real deal.
Yeah. All right. The pit bull chasing down the cyclist, that was completely laughable. Yeah, I love the guys on the horses. I love that part. That was great. That made me think of. Have you seen Amelie?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's been a long time since I watched it, but yeah, I mean,
there's a part in Amelie where they zoom in on this TV that's playing this like classic shot from like back in the 80s where a horse like got onto the road during the Tour de France and was literally. Yeah, it was like riding next to like 100 dudes. Like there's a horse right there running alongside of them.
Like big brown horse. Yeah, I've seen that clip.
Yeah. That scene with the guys on the horses was making me think of that. Another thing I loved about this movie is like how horny it was. And like, like
super horny. They're all
the chicks are hot. Yeah. And like when he's like,
do we need one Kevin, room or two? And she's like,
right. Yeah, or when you first meet Ray Don Chong or whatever her name is, and like Kevin Costner's like makes some reference about it. He's like, yeah, because we're going to be making love all night long or whatever. The brother's like,
some noises, don't come knocking.
Yeah, he's like, oh my God, I didn't need to hear that or whatever. Ray Don Chong is like, he's being serious, like,
just in case you didn't believe that your brother's about to tear me up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but what I did like though is like I kind of liked the politics of the movie. The sexual politics were cool. The racial politics were cool. Like they had black guys on bikes. They had an interracial relationship right at the center of the whole thing. Yeah. With like approval from the mom. I feel like there was something that came up about like gays or something like that, and they seemed very cool on gays. So I was happy with that. I also speaking of like the sex, like I love it when like David and Becky are finally hooking up in the hotel and like they get in bed and then they play like like when TV used to end at night, like they would play like the Star Spangled Banner.
Star Spangled Banner. And then later on they're like it's our song. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Like the callback to their song was good. Yeah. And then like you see the shots of the space shuttle taking off, like, it's, hey, sex is about to happen. Here comes the space shuttle. Yeah. And then one last thing I wanted to mention is like the 30 seconds for the time bonus, like the intermediate sprint time bonus, you get 30
30
seconds. I thought that was
seconds.
hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
he made up 2 minutes in general classification on four
Yeah.
intermediate sprints.
With some wily tactics.
Yeah, like in today's cycling, it would be like, 6, 4, and 2 seconds or whatever. He's got 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
So,
Uh,
well, I think we spilled over by 3 or 4 minutes, but I'm feeling pretty good with that segment. So, all right, we are back, and we are going to be getting into Kevin Costner, his career, his filmography, his life, his Kevin Costner of it all. And I'm going to let you lead this conversation because I know you have lots to say, and I would love at some point you to just like completely bring me up to speed on all of like the Western stuff that he's been doing here lately. Because I honestly I haven't watched minute one of like any of that stuff, and I know there's like a whole cinematic universe there.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that he's got, going on right now. So the first thing that I wanted to say is that, obviously this movie is happening very early in his career, and so it was neat when I went back to look and see like movies that he had been in early in his career, like, and I thought it was interesting that his second credit, he played a frat boy in Night Shift. All right, with Michael Keaton, who we were
I was
talking
there
about
was a
earlier.
there's a lot of dovetailing of all these actors that are in this
Yeah,
because like it was like I told you about the Michael Keaton picture, and yeah,
yeah.
it's just
But
again
I
so
thought
80s.
it was interesting that Night Shift was on his thing because that means his second movie is a Ron Howard movie because Night
Yeah,
Shift is Ron Howard. Isn't that interesting?
yeah, yeah.
So obviously, like Kevin Costner for me is like I remember, like I was not like the Big Chill, obviously he was in that and Silverado, I know those were like his first ones. And Silverado, obviously, that
Don't
definitely
forget about
begins.
Fandango.
So here's the thing. I've never seen that movie. It's like it's now like risen to one of the top of my list. I saw something that Tarantino said about that movie that it's the greatest directorial debut ever. And I was like, okay, I have to watch this movie. I've never seen it. So I
Yeah, I definitely
honestly,
watched it back in the day, but don't remember it very well.
all right, well, guess what? Future podcast topic, Fandango.
Could be.
Anyway, the, you know, but the run that he has after this movie is like insane
Oh, it's
because
legendary.
he does Untouchables with Connery. All right. Bull Durham immediately followed by Field of Dreams, both amazing movies. Field of Dreams obviously is
That, the guy did back-to-back baseball movies, and both of them are legendary. Like that's
absolutely,
amazing.
absolutely. And then very, very, very soon after that, he does. He's obviously he is really, really gaining steam in Hollywood, and he does Dances with Wolves. I mean, and Dances with Wolves is just a
Total juggernaut.
masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. You know what I mean? It's a masterclass in epic filmmaking. It's great acting. It's I mean, we could do an hour on how good Dances with Wolves is, but then his next movie is the movie that because 1991, I'm 10 years old, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves comes out, and that movie is so absolutely captivating to me. It dominates, a huge portion. I mean, Kevin Costner as an action figure, but I loved that movie, and he just continues to go on and just, you know, after that you've got JFK, you've got The Bodyguard, A Perfect World. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and he this the crazy thing about him is that he just continues as he goes on to make these all these different roles his own, but yet he's like to me he's the definition of the guy that like is doing the studio movie and the movies for himself, and like
Like
he does
one for
that
them, one
balance
for me,
so
kind of
well.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think by the time he does Field of Dreams, he's establishing himself as an auteur. You know, he's got these lanes that he's working in. He's totally grounded in like Americana. You know, which
Very much
becomes,
so.
I think, to me, I think that is like the definitive through line of his career is like this grounding in like Americana. Um, but I agree that run is just insane. That you know his like late '80s into the early insane. So I did my personal like top five. Um, so my top five, and I have like major blind spots in the Costner filmography as well. My top five, I got Field of Dreams at five. Uh, nah, you know what? Yeah, I got Field of Dreams at five. No Way Out four. Robin Hood at three. Dances with Wolves at two, and Untouchables at one. Um, but it's a very personal top five for me. So Untouchables, like that movie was the world to me. I remember seeing that movie in a theater at Lake Forest Mall back in the day, and like just being completely blown away by the whole like badassery of the thing. I mean, the characters in there were so iconic between De Niro's uh uh you know Al Capone. I mean, that speech he gives before he clubs the guy to death in that scene, like I literally had that thing memorized at some point. Like I used to be able to do that in the scene, you know. What am I? Baseball. Sunny day, stands are full of fans. What does he say? I'm going out there for myself. You know, like that whole thing was amazing. And then you got the Frank Needy character, and he's just like so ruthlessly evil. He's like, uh, what does he say? He's like, oh, he's like, he died like a pig. He's like, what did you say? He's like, your friend. I said he died he died bleeding like a stuck Irish pig. Now you think about that when I beat the rap. You know, like just iconic lines like that. That was an early movie for
Oh,
me that like really
Connery
like
has that epic line. You know,
yes, yeah, yeah, that's the Chicago way. That's how you
that's
get
the
Capone. You know,
Chicago
like
way.
yeah, he brings a knife, you bring a gun.
Yeah,
That's how you get Capone. Like, yeah, I mean everything about it. Like, to me, there's nothing better like than like that. That is just
well,
on the
and that's when he's in the run of like he's the young Hollywood, you know, new guy, so he's getting all of the like up and comer roles, and you know later on he's going to transition to be the older Hollywood guy that's bringing in the new guy doing the up and comer roles.
yeah
You know,
yeah
one of the ones recently that it's like I almost forget that he's in it is he's Clark Kent's dad in like the DC extended
yeah.
universe.
He
You
does, he
know,
gets some good dad roles. He had the dad role in that like Jessica Chastain poker movie, I think. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, he plays that stuff. One thing I want to mention though, real quick, and then I want you to finish it talking about the new Western stuff. Is like, and this is a good little segue. Um, Dances with Wolves came to me right when I got into that fraternity. Is when that movie came out. Gotten into the fraternity, and Kevin Costner is a fraternity brother. So I can't express to you like how deep in Kevin Costner world I was when that movie came out. And then here it is, it's like this incredible American epic, and I'm like a 19-year-old American, red-blooded, white-skinned American kid. Like I was all in on Kevin Costner to a level I can't describe to you. Um, and another incredible memory I have about that movie, I absolutely saw that in the theater, me and Dad. So I have a strong association with that picture with
Yeah.
Dad,
Well,
and
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 I'm
also
sure Dad loved it.
and the cookie like wagon train guy getting killed by the Pawnees with the arrows, like that was like one of the most bone chilling things I had ever seen in my life to that point. Like when that dude
Yeah.
just like starts taking arrows, it's
Very
just like
visceral. Very, very
so
visceral.
so scary.
So like, okay, so like, and obviously, like the thing that like is so interesting about like what he has going on now. So obviously the biggest thing that he's done, in recent years has been Yellowstone, and do you don't watch Yellowstone, right?
No, I know that there's like three shows there plus like the new stuff, right?
Yeah, they're all pretty good. Nikki really likes them, so we've watched them. Um, that's that Tyler Sheridan world. So, but forget all that because Costner's only really part of the one. He's very good in it. It's gruff, patriarch of the
What's his name? What's his name in the thing?
John Dutton.
Yeah, John Dutton.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's cool. But what I think is like the kind of like the badass part of Costner now is that he's on the biggest show on television, and they're like trying, they've done 5 seasons. They are like fully invested in this storyline, and the writer's strike happens, and he's just like, yeah, I'm not coming back. I've got this other shit to do. And that was it, man. And like, and
So what did they do? What did they do to compensate for him being gone, or did they not?
I
Did
mean,
they stop the show?
no, I mean the show continues. It's continuing. So I mean, I don't want to. I don't. I'd rather not try to spoil it. But like, he definitely left the show. So,
So
but he,
they were able to write around that to
yeah. I
you
mean,
know
they definitely wrote around it. So, but it's like it's very interesting to me that it's like here's a guy that's put in his many years in Hollywood. He's made these people millions of dollars, and like he's like, no, I'm going to make these. What he did is he's making he made these two like Dances with Wolves kind of movies called hold on, what is, I don't want to screw up
it's
there
the
actually.
something 1 and 2, right?
Horizon: An American Saga, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2.
I tell you
And
what, that cover image for that movie is so freaking cool. Like the way he's standing there with the duster on, and it's like you can't see it. Like, oh my god,
yeah.
I love that
So,
filmography there.
and he was like, this is more important, it's more important to me to tell this story than it is to continue your
Yeah.
story if you can't do it.
Have
And
you watched those movies?
I started them, but I keep getting interrupted. They're kind of obviously like he is wont to do. They're kind of long, so and I that's the type of movie where I'd like to digest it all as one piece as opposed to like watching it piecemeal. So it's just been I haven't had a chance to actually you know get into it completely, but what I have watched. I mean, it looks beautiful. So, you know, he's an interesting guy to me. You know what I mean. I feel like you know he is personified the cowboy. He's like I'm gonna do what I want, man. Like you're not gonna tell me what to do. And you know what? Ale to Kevin Costner for making a
I'll,
cycling movie and a great career.
all right, I'll give you the last word. We'll leave it there and be back in a few. All right. All right, we are back, and we are going to be talking about Mark Cavendish now. Just completed his career in fine fashion. I guess, are we spoiling here? Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I think
Okay,
that was pretty good.
if you haven't watched Mark Cavendish's final race, then you might not want to listen to this particular segment because starting in about 10 seconds, we're going to spoil what happened in Mark Cavendish's final race, which is now available on Tiz, by the way. Like somehow it's up on Tiz. So like I went and watched like the final like three
I did
Ks
not
of
know
it,
that.
listening to the GCN guy or whatever that was commentating. I think Carlton Kirby was like on the beginning of it, but then like it was the other guy, Matt Stevens or somebody that was there for the finish. But
Yeah,
yeah, Cav
Kirby
goes out
Kirby
goes
does all that Tour de France stuff.
yeah, so Cav goes out on top with a win, and I guess my thoughts on just win in particular is like, I kind of love the fact that he chased down Jasper Philipsen. Like, and I don't know, I almost like looking at some of them. I mean, he was right there with Philipsen, DeLee, and Biniam Girmay, and beat all three of them. And I can tell by the look on your face, you think they gave. You
Yeah,
think
I
so?
think they gave it to him.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like
Come on.
it's
I want to believe that he won it. I do. Like I want to believe in miracles. All right. But,
well, I don't think anybody. I don't think any of them will ever admit it. Maybe they will years from now. But like the amount of looking around he was doing in that finish, like he keeps looking over at Phillips and he's like, "Let him." It's like really like you beat Phillipson in a sprint and you had that much time to look around. So whatever.
I'm just saying I've watched it a few times and I wonder. So no. Look,
His team
Cav
was working their ass off to
is
get him in position, and
Cav is amazing. What Cav did this year is insane. You know what I mean? It's legendary. It is the thing that that people it's one of those things that people will talk about for years.
yeah,
It is
legendary.
this.
You chose the right word, legendary.
Yeah, he is he gave he has given you the swan song. I mean, this year was the swan song to the career. It was him getting the thing that he's been looking for so hard, and it was just amazing. And I loved in the beginning of the race. Did you see the bit with the bikes?
Yeah, yeah, super cool.
Yeah, all that. Like
Super cool.
I loved all of it. All right, like, and for me, and I'm sure that you have a lot to say about this, but for me, I'm gonna always look back on Cav as the thing that got me into cycling, because the year that he didn't break the record was really the first year that you had gotten me into cycling, and he had won a bunch of stages, and it was like, oh man, like,
Yeah,
this is super.
he won 4 stages and tied the record. I think that was
Yeah,
in like 2019, I think.
yeah, and it was totally out of nowhere. Like because nobody had that expectation that he was going to be able to do that.
Well, if you'll recall,
Did he have
he
the
did it
green
on
jersey,
Quick Step.
right? Yes.
Yeah, he won the green jersey. He got it on Quick Step. He got there on a 1 year contract, and that was a contract where Lefevre was like, "We don't have any money in the budget, but I know the team, so we'll bring you back here if you'll work for minimum wage." So he was making minimum salary when he won 4 stages of the Tour de France and the green jersey. He was the lowest paid guy on the team. Think about that.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but I think
I'm
I
sure we
love that
both
you
could. I'm
have
sure
that.
we both could speak to that. But yeah.
Well, I love that you have that association. I mean, that's a great like sort of vehicle for having gotten into the sport. Um, for me, it's like Lance Armstrong, like every dude my age who's into pro cycling, like we all got into it because of the Lance Armstrong thing. You were probably in high school when it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember when it was happening, but it was dust. It was never like
It was just a news item to you or something like that.
well, no, because that would have been when John was like very very young, and so
Right. Right.
that was a time when I didn't digest much more than music and movies.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, like with Cavendish specifically, I almost kind of came into it like into my Cav thing at the same time you did, because like so I was really following the Tour de France back in the Armstrong days. Um, did you start a timer for this segment, by the way?
Say what?
Did you start a timer for this segment?
Yeah, you're like halfway.
Okay, yeah, I didn't start one, I forgot, but um, and then but I was only watching Tour de France when it would be broadcast on the NBC affiliated network back then or whatever. Um, I had no knowledge of any other races throughout the year, just the Tour de France. And during the Armstrong era, it's when Cavendish was just before he was about to start his career when I was watching. So like after Armstrong, I kind of checked out from all of it for several years there, and that's right when Cavendish started his career. So I kind of like missed the beginning of Cavendish's career, and so it was only when I got back into watching cycling again, which was not long before you did, a couple of years before you did. Like I I think I started watching the Tour de France again, like right around the time the kids were born. So maybe in like 2013 around then. Um, and you came along like 5 years later or something. So, but Cavendish wasn't doing.
It was the
It
Hilton.
was like yeah,
Because
and
we
Cavendish
followed
wasn't
Hilton.
doing much for those 4 or 5 years. Like he was getting wins here or there, but his highly productive period had come to an end. Like his productive period was that time when I was like not really paying any attention to anything. Um, so uh, the first big thing that I remember with Cavendish was when Peter Sagan elbowed him in that Tour de France sprint and like caused a massive crash and put him out of the tour. And then from there, I just saw a guy who kept having misfortune after misfortune after misfortune. I mean, do you know about all the stuff that he went through? Like
I mean,
he had that crash.
I watched that documentary on Netflix, so I mean that gives you a pretty good background
Yeah,
on it.
yeah. So he had that crash like in 2016, and then after that he had the Epstein-Barr disease, which was just fucked him up for a couple of different years and different parts of his
Yep.
seasons and stuff like that. Um, he had more crashes and illnesses outside of Epstein-Barr. Um, he had a home invasion. Like his like people came in when his wife and kids were at home. Like they could have been killed. Like that is as a parent, like that's a massive thing. Like that will mess with your head, and
Yeah.
especially a guy like him who's so in his head. You know what I mean? So he
Yeah.
went through all of that, and I do remember I was definitely in paying attention to cycling when there was some race where he thought it was going to be his last race, and he literally like crashed out of it and was like sobbing, and like it was the last image that anybody had of Mark Cavendish for like a year and a half, because after that he was just contemplating whether his career was over and getting over this illness and dealing with all this stuff. And it was then that he started the slow process of making the comeback that culminated in like what you saw when he made it to the Tour de France. So yeah, in a way, my journey with Mark Cavendish started when he was at the bottom.
And then that soul crushing defeat by Wout Van Aert on the Champs Elysees.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny though. It's like it would have been absolutely perfect. Like that would have been the perfect story to finish on. Him winning on the Champs Elysees in the green jersey and getting the record. Like that would have checked every box. But
But this was better.
it just set us up for a whole bunch of other drama that was so good. And
Well,
and
and if you think in like the last probably the two things that I remember most about Cav in the last 2 years is when Geraint Thomas let him out at the end of the Giro. Come on, mate, let's go. Gives him the
that's
elbow.
that's what I was going to say. If he wins on the Champs Elysees and the record, maybe he doesn't. Maybe we never
Yeah,
get that moment,
yeah, that
which
moment that probably never happens.
it's one of the greatest things
Um,
ever. I mean, that moment where basically there was two worlds of cycling combined in that moment. It's like, let's not forget, Geraint Thomas had lost the Giro the day before.
yes,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and then for that story to not also not be over. You know what I mean? It's like Geraint Thomas's dreams of winning that race ended the day before, but Geraint's story in that race did not end that day.
no,
You know what I'm saying?
not
He
at all.
still
And I
had
don't.
another
I
another
remember.
card to play.
I remember him
Like,
helping his friend more than I remember him losing the Giro.
I know it's incredible. And do you know that when Cavendish won the world championship, like way back in 2013 or whenever it was, like back when I wasn't paying attention, like Geraint Thomas let him out.
I
So
did not. I didn't know that. No.
yeah, like they have so much history. Like so
They do.
that I mean, that
But
storyline. I mean,
so
so
then
great.
and then the other two kind of like things that stick out a lot are his horrible crash out last year in the Tour de France, like that
And
image of him.
the year before.
Well, oh yeah, but well, the one that I think of though is like him in the van, like in the in the Astana jersey in the van, and you're just like,
Yeah.
is this the last image we see of of Mark Cavendish? Broken
Yeah.
collarbone in a van on the side of the road in France.
Well,
And
and
then
that's literally the way it happened the year before as well. Like, don't forget that
yeah,
happened 2 years in a row where he was there to do it and crashed out.
and the fact that his team gets behind him this year and is like their whole goal is to get him this win, and like they bring back his boy, they bring back his boy.
Oh, although he did not lead him out in that sprint.
Yeah, he didn't, but that's that sprint. When we want to, I mean, if we talk about that sprint was improvisational. If anything, like that
Yeah.
was he definitely uh, saw his way to that to that win, and it was so cool, man. Like, and it
Well,
was
that's
just for me.
interesting too. That this is a guy who for years has relied on incredibly strong sprint trains and especially very strong lead out men. I mean, he has his relationship with Mark is absolutely legendary. Two of those guys shared a brain, and then Michael Morkov coming in and like being that guy for him as well. And I mean, I think Morkov came out 3 of the 4 Tour de France stage wins that year. I mean, it was absolutely like essential. So it's kind of poetic that in his very last in the last sprint that he had to do to get that record, it all came down to him. He had to freelance it. You know what I mean? Something poetic about that.
Yeah,
Like
it's
in the end, he had to get it done himself.
it's a great career, and he's a person that I'll always fondly remember, and he'll always be the thing that kind of got me got me the fever of cycling and how great of a sport it can be. And it was a great way to intro myself into the complexities that are road cycling.
Yeah, yeah. What a God! That was just spectacular. The whole thing was just so freaking cool. And yeah, we got a whole bunch more drama because what won that day. I mean, we got every year. I mean, it's every year until he won. Until this past year or whatever. Always a question hanging like, will he be back? Can he find a contract? Can they put a team around him? Will he get? It was just like such a nice storyline to be like just happening through all that. It gave us so much more like meat to chew on than just like, oh, Tadej Pogacar or Jonas Vingegaard are going to dominate everything.
Mm.
So
Well, and now they can go make another movie that I'll watch as well.
yeah, so I want to, and I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Cavendish going forward. I think I just heard he's going to be on the staff at Astana.
I
Did
believe
you hear
I
that?
also heard that. I mean,
Yeah.
he's definitely done racing, but I think he's going to carry on in some role. I mean, I'm sure that they would love him to just be the face of whatever. I mean, hopefully, you know, uh, hopefully he has something. Hopefully that he'll have a role for sure.
Yeah, and I
Sir,
would also,
Sir Mark
Sir Mark
Cavendish.
Cavendish, I would also say that the Giro d'Italia win, on the Via Roma from 2023, like that is probably that's definitely my best moment of 2020. Like that was absolutely incredible, and the way that all the riders were lining up afterwards and congratulating him, and like the tears and just like
Yeah, nobody expected it.
everything about it. Let's not forget he won that thing by like 5 bike lengths.
Yeah, he
He
was
blasted
a
everybody.
missile.
Yeah, and that was his nickname, the Manx Missile. Like that was that was something else, man. That was, and if Wout Van Aert doesn't win, like maybe we don't get that. So
Yeah.
as
Well,
it all
you know
turned
what
out, I mean,
no, go ahead.
well, I was going to say honestly, the record that when he got the record, it almost feels anticlimactic because there was so much other shit going on in the tour, like the Biniam Girmay thing, and like it's I don't know. I feel like it wasn't the giant set piece that I felt like it would have been when he won it. It's almost like it happened. Everybody, yep, all right, let's get on with this thing. Like I don't know.
It was like relief. It
Yeah,
was like everybody wanted it so bad that it was like, ooh, relief. He finally has it.
and I feel like didn't he kind of like didn't even come close again, like for the whole rest. It was like stage 5 or something like that. It happened pretty early in the tour, and then like he didn't even come close again.
I feel like he had he had like another like second or third maybe somewhere
Yeah.
later in the race. One of
Well, and
those
then
big
Biniam,
stages.
and then Biniam gets 3 stage wins and takes green, and then Jasper Philipsen, like finally in the end, he ekes out a 3rd stage win and almost catches him up on the green. But Biniam, I mean, that became the sprinting story of that Tour de France, and like Cavendish's win was almost footnote. Obvious,
Yeah.
it's in the entire history of cycling, Cavendish is way bigger than Girmay and Philipsen in 2024. But I also just thought it was kind of interesting that those were the 2 guys that were there for his final win, were like the 2 guys that sort of became the storyline when he broke the record. I don't know. There's some symmetry there that I sort of liked.
Wow, man. You know what? Sir Mark Cavendish, Ale. I mean,
LA,
big
LA,
bucket of
the
win.
best of all time.
Well,
Um, all right. Well, we will be back in a few with some final thoughts. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, and for my segment of the Broom Wagon today, I'm going to be recommending an experience. I had this experience a couple weekends back, and it was pretty awesome, and that is to go to an audio show. So I went to the Capitol Audio Fest. This is put on every year in Rockville, Maryland, by where I live, by my buddy Gary Gill, who is one of my regulars at the bar. And basically, they take over this hotel for a weekend. He takes like 6 floors of the hotel, plus like the atrium floor space, the lobbies, a bunch of the meeting rooms and stuff like that. And this thing is just filled up with independent dealers coming in and setting up their 100 to 200 to $300,000 stereo systems for people to come in and listen to. They literally clear the furniture out of dozens and dozens and dozens of hotel rooms, so that they can set up these badass stereo systems with a little collection of chairs sprinkled in front of them. And you go up in there and listen to amazing music played from vinyl records in many cases. The reps from these companies that are selling these stereos are like only too happy to just play whatever you want. You can look through the record collection. A lot of them have laptops, so you can just request anything.
What was your request? What was one of the songs that you requested?
I requested Black Hole Sun, and something else that I got the guy to put on. What I really was hoping was I didn't have the balls to ask anybody, but like I want to get them to play one of the songs that I've written. I would love to hear one of the songs that I've produced here lately, like on one of those stereo systems. I'm gonna do it next time. If I get that done, I'll do it next time. But just a really cool experience. I mean, I certainly don't have the means to buy $100,000 stereo system as much as I'd like to. There was one that I saw. The speakers, just the 2 speakers, were $200,000, and I was talking to the guy, and I was like, man, like the wires for those speakers are really cool. The speaker wires for these speakers were like these big flat wires, like ensconced in plastic. They were like 4 inches tall, like a flat ribbon of wire. And they have individual little stands that like hold the wire up off the ground as it's like going over to the stereo system. It's insane. So I asked the guy, how much do the wires cost? He goes, oh, those, I think they're 60,000 a pair. The wires, $60,000.
$60,000
for the wires.
Well, because they probably transmit the sound better. Like it's probably
So they better for $60,000.
$60,000, yeah. Jesus Christ.
Unbelievable, but a really cool experience. I mean, to spend an afternoon just like walking around, hitting your weed pen, and like listening to cool music on incredible stereo systems, it's pretty mind-boggling.
It's like the
perfect.
stoner.
Oh, dude, I heard a live recording of Sarah Bareilles doing Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and it was just the most spectacular thing. I kicked back. I was directly in between the speakers in the front row, and I just leaned back and closed my eyes, and like it was like being at a concert, man. It was amazing.
That's wild.
So
that's wild.
Big recommendation. Find an audio fest. You'll have some fun.
Word. Well, my broom wagon topic is a show. What We Do in the Shadows. I don't know if you've ever seen that Taika Waititi movie, but they spun that movie off into a show. It's one of those documentary style TV shows. Really, really, really funny. It's in its last season. It's on Hulu right now. The last season, I think, is just about wrapped up. I've been watching it again with my son Connor. It's super funny. The three people that are in it are just they're so good. They have great guest stars. I mean, the guest stars is really, like who pops up in it, and you'll just be like, wow, Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill, okay.
Yeah, Mark Hamill, Nick Kroll is in a bunch of recurring episodes. But it's very funny show. It's one of those raunchy comedies that's few and far between anymore because everybody's so afraid to offend people. So big recommendation, and if you can catch up on it, it's a TV sitcom, so you only got low commitment per episode. So
all right, and with that, we are a wrap for this week. Join us next week for a conversation about some off-season pro cycling stuff. We're going to do our top 3 cycling moments of 2024, and we're also going to be discussing the hilarious podcast 60 Songs That Explain the 90s, the 2000s, which has just started its new season. Until then, for my brother Justin, I'm Matt Harper. Thanks for joining us for another trip beyond the slipstream.
Alley!
Alley! Beyond the Slipstream is a production of Harperama. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and subscribe, smash that button, leave a 5-star review, and most importantly, tell all your friends about us. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Ale!